Ask a man how he plans to end up with money, and you'll get the same three things every time. Get the income up. Keep the spending down. Put the difference in the market and leave it there for 30 years. That's the plan. Your bank has a podcast about that plan. And it will take more away from you than every bad stock pick of your life put together, because it leaves out the four things that actually set the number. A man can run that plan perfectly for 20 years. Max the retirement account, drive the used sedan, never carry a balance on a card, and still be starting over at 45 with less than he had at 30. You've watched it happen to someone. The market didn't do that to him. Four things took it apart, and not one of them ever appeared on the spreadsheet he was so proud of. Four choices decide how much money you end up with, and none of them is a money choice. Who you marry, what you do to your body, what you do with your free hours, and who you spend those hours with. Everything the finance people talk about sits downstream of those four. None of them announce themselves. Nobody sits down on a Sunday and decides to spend the next 11 years drinking 4 nights a week with men who are going nowhere. He just does it, one Friday at a time, and then he's 42. That's what makes these four so expensive. They move slowly enough to feel like a life instead of a decision. Start with who you marry, because it carries the biggest number and gets the least thought. The advice says your savings rate is the lever. 15%, 20% if you can stretch, and time does the rest. Then a man gets divorced at 41, and the pot he spent 12 years filling gets cut in half in a single afternoon. The half is the small part. The house sells because neither of you can carry it alone. And it sells on a timeline you didn't choose, in a month you didn't choose. Support gets calculated against what you earn, not against what's left after you pay for a second place to live. The retirement account gets divided by a court order with your name printed at the top. 12 years at a 20% savings rate does not survive that. Nothing does. So the largest single event in your financial life is a decision you make in your early 30s, usually while you're in love, usually after less examination than you'd give a used truck. You will spend more hours comparing phone plans, and divorce is the loud version. The quiet version is far more common and almost nobody prices it. Two people build a household that spends whatever comes in. He gets a raise, the raise becomes a bigger place, a nicer car, a vacation that becomes annual. 20 years of that, and there's nothing behind him. No savings failure anywhere, just a marriage that converted every increase into a higher floor. He earned 3 times what his father earned and retired with less. Put 2 men side by side. Same job, same paycheck, same city. One of them married a woman who thinks a 6-year-old car is fine, and a birthday doesn't require a flight. The other married a woman who redecorates every 3 years and treats a vacation as the baseline, not the reward. 20 years on, one of them owns his house outright, and the other owes $11,000 on a kitchen he never wanted. Nothing in the finance advice can tell those 2 men apart. Everything in their actual lives did, and she holds a vote on every large decision you'll make for the rest of your life. Where you live, which mortgage you sign, whether you take the job that pays less now and much more in 4 years. A man whose wife can sit calmly through 18 lean months will start something of his own. A man whose wife panics in the 3rd slow month will stay employed forever and tell himself it was his own call. That one choice runs as a standing veto on every risk you'll ever consider for 40 years. She also sets the other 3 on this list, whether either of you intends it. Your body follows whatever the household eats and whatever hours the household keeps. Your evenings follow her schedule and her expectations of you. And the people sitting at your table on a Saturday will mostly be people she chose. One decision reaching quietly into all the others. I want to be exact here, because this is the spot where men hear the opposite of what I'm saying. A marriage that holds is the strongest financial position available to a man. Two incomes under one roof. One set of bills. Somebody with a real reason to care whether you make it to 70 in one piece. That's precisely why it sits at the top of this list. It's the largest position you'll ever take, and it's the one men take with less examination than anything else they own. I knew a guy who tracked his spending to the dollar, every coffee, categorized, color-coded. He used to send me screenshots of his savings rate like it was a scoreboard. He married a woman he'd known for 7 months. I remember standing at that wedding, thinking about the color-coded spreadsheet and deciding it wasn't my place to say anything. That's the one I still think about. The second one gets filed under health, like it belongs in a different conversation from money. It belongs in this one. Your body is the machine that produces every dollar you will ever have, and you're setting its service life right now, in your 30s, without noticing you're doing it. The whole plan assumes 40 working years. That's the engine of compounding. Money goes in at 30, nobody touches it until 70, and the arithmetic works because the years are there. Nobody ever checks whether the man will be there. Watch what happens at 56. A back that's been carrying an extra 60 pounds since he was 34 finally gives out. He's a project manager, so he figures he's safe. Then he's on his third round of injections, taking sick days he doesn't have, and the company restructures in the spring. Now he's 56 with a gap on his record and a body that can't do the site visits. He doesn't retire at 67. He gets pushed out at 58 and spends 9 years drawing down an account he built, assuming 30 more. Those 9 working years were worth more than every raise he ever negotiated combined. He gave them away for free across 20 years without ever once making a decision about it. And that's before the bills. Type 2 diabetes is a charge that arrives every month for the rest of your life, and it arrives whether or not the market had a good year. The blood pressure medication, the sleep machine, the knee replacement, same thing. None of it ever shows up as a financial decision. All of it gets paid for in money, and the amounts climb as you get older. You also can't buy any of it back later. A man at 60 with $2 million still can't purchase a knee that bends, or the 20 years of sleep he never got. Money buys almost everything in this world. It doesn't buy back the one thing your 30s were quietly spending. There's a piece of this that ruins the third item on the list before you even get to it. A man who is finished at 7 in the evening has no evenings. He has a couch, a screen, and 6 hours until the alarm. His body already spent his free time before he got home to use it, and he calls the result being tired, as if it arrived from somewhere else. So how many working years are you actually planning on? Because the third one is where that answer gets decided. Count your evenings, 7 to 11, 5 nights a week, plus most of Saturday and Sunday. That's roughly 30 hours a week belonging to you and nobody else. Across 10 years, it's about 15,000 hours. That block is what decides whether you're worth more at 40 than you were at 30. The money advice has nothing to say about any of it, because those hours don't move through a bank account. Nothing gets deposited, nothing gets withdrawn, so the whole thing stays invisible to a plan assembled out of balances. So most men spend them like loose change. 3 hours of television, an hour of scrolling, a game on the weekend, and then it's Wednesday again. 10 years of that produces exactly what you'd expect. A man doing the same work he was doing at 30 for 11% more, wondering why the ladder stopped moving under him. There are 2 kinds of free hours, and the difference is whether anything is still standing the next morning. An hour that leaves something behind, a skill you didn't have, a client who now knows your name, equipment 1 payment closer to paid off, a body that can still take stairs at 60, pays you again in 5 years. An hour that leaves nothing behind was pleasant, and it's gone. Most men run 0 hours a week of the first kind and call the result balance. I know a man who spent his evenings for 2 years getting a commercial license and then stacking endorsements on top of it. Dull work, done tired after full days. He owns 3 trucks now and doesn't drive any of them. He had exactly the same 30 hours a week as everybody else at his old job. Almost nobody gets to see that money, and there's a plain reason for it. The first year of anything new pays you nothing at all. You're bad at it, it's slow, and there's nothing to show anyone. Year 4 is where it starts returning, and year 7 is where it returns absurdly. So men quit in month 5, having sampled only the stretch where it's all outgoing, and walk away certain the whole idea was oversold. Nothing you do inside your job over the next decade will move your income the way those hours can. They're the only block of time in your life that nobody else has a claim on, and most men hand them over to whatever happens to be playing at 9 o'clock. Whoever you spend those hours with decides how they get spent, which is the 4th one, and it's the one men defend hardest. Friends feel free. Nobody ever sends you an invoice for a friendship. But the men around you set the number you think is normal to drop on a Friday, the number you think is normal to earn, and the amount of debt you think a man your age is supposed to be carrying. Sit at a table where 3 of the 4 guys lease cars they can't afford, and within a year you're at a dealership telling yourself the payment is manageable. Sit at a table where every man's marriage is a punchline, and yours starts sounding like a punchline inside your own head. Sit at a table where 2 men own something, and you'll catch yourself pricing out what it would take in a way you never did before. Your standards drift toward the average of the 5 men you talk to most. It happens quietly, across 2,000 hours a year, and nobody at the table notices it happening. That's the same span of time as a full-time job. You would never take a job with those people. There's also a part of this that shows up directly in money. Work comes from people, contracts, referrals, the job that never gets posted, the guy who needs a partner with your exact skill. All of it travels through conversation. A man with 5 friends who own things hears about 4 real opportunities a year. A man with 5 friends who complain about their bosses hears about none, year after year, and concludes the whole economy is closed. They also decide what's permitted. Leave a Friday early because you're building something, and one table gives you grief about it for months, while another table asks how it's coming along. The grief works. Most men will quietly abandon a good decision rather than be the odd one at the table, and none of them will ever admit that's what happened. Let me be exact about this one too, because it gets twisted into something ugly fast. The men worth keeping are the ones going somewhere, and plenty of them are broke. A man with $40 and a plan takes nothing from you. A comfortable man who needs you to stay exactly where you are will take a decade. Income tells you nothing either way, the direction does. I had a group like that in my 20s. Good men, funny, loyal, and every single conversation was about what had been done to us. I still miss those Fridays. I don't miss who I was on the Monday. Now, the people who give the standard money advice have a real answer to all of this, and it's the strongest one they've got. They'd say, sure, those 4 things matter, but they aren't financial planning. They're just life. You can't put a marriage on a spreadsheet. You can't control who you fall for, and you can't control how your health goes. What you can control is your savings rate and your allocation. So, control that, and stop pretending the rest is a strategy. That's a serious answer, given in good faith by people who aren't trying to sell you anything. It also has the one thing that matters exactly backwards, which is the question of what a man can actually steer. Go through the money side honestly. Your investment returns are set by a market you have 0 influence over. Your salary sits inside a band your industry decided before you were hired, and a layoff can end the whole thing on a Thursday morning with no warning. Inflation isn't yours. Tax law isn't yours. Almost everything on the money side of your life is weather. You can dress for it, you can't change it. Now go through the 4. Nobody has ever gotten married by accident. It takes months of decisions and a day where you stand in front of people and say yes out loud. Nobody gains 70 pounds in an afternoon. It takes about 4,000 small choices spread across a decade. each one available to be made differently. Nobody gets assigned a friend group by the government. And your Wednesday night is yours completely at 7 o'clock every single week. Those 4 are the most controllable things in a man's entire life. They only feel uncontrollable because they move slowly. So the advice has him white-knuckling the weather while he drifts on the only parts he steers. What's really happening is simpler than the plan makes it sound. Your income is one number, it's the smallest number in your financial life, and it's the only one anybody talks about. Sitting on top of it are 4 numbers nobody ever prices. How much of what you build stays yours? How many years your body will let you keep building? How many hours a week you spend getting better at something? And what the people around you consider a normal way to live? A raise is a step. You go up once and you stay there. Those 4 are slopes. They apply themselves to everything you own, every year, in the background, whether you're paying attention or not. Across 30 years, a slope beats a step every time, and it isn't close. The 2 sides don't even work the same way. The earning side has a ceiling. There's only so much you can add, and you already know roughly where yours is. The other side has no floor at all. A divorce can take half. A body that quits early can take 15 working years. 10 empty evenings a week can take the whole second half of a career. There is nothing on your pay stub that moves numbers that size, in either direction. And the 4 are wired into each other, which is why they never fail one at a time. Your body decides whether you have evenings. Your evenings decide what you're worth. The men you drink with are the ones who introduce you to the woman you marry. And they're also the reason her behavior looks normal to you. Repair one and the next gets easier. Let one slide and it starts pulling on the others. Run back through it with that in your head. The man who lost half at 41 was doing the savings part correctly the entire time. 12 years, never missed a contribution. His slope pointed down the hole while he polished the step. The man whose back went at 56 had a slope running on his working years and filed it under health, like it belonged to some other department of his life. The man with 15,000 evenings had a slope running on his own value and spent it on whatever was on at 9. The man at the table with the least cars had his normal set for him, one Friday at a time, by 4 guys who were also drifting and calling it loyalty. Same picture in all 4. The money part was handled. The thing underneath it was moving the whole time. So the biggest financial decision you will ever make is about who and what you let into your life, and then keep there. The woman you sign your name beside. The habits you run every day without ever deciding to. The men whose standards become your standards through simple exposure. A bad investment takes a slice of what you have once, and you recover. Bad habits and bad company take a percentage of everything you will ever earn, every year, for as long as you keep them, and they take the years too, which is exactly why I say what I say about being single. So let me put it plainly. That first choice is the only one on the list you're allowed to decline. If you haven't met a woman who makes your life bigger, who leaves you healthier, sharper, and better with money than you were on your own, then the honest answer right now is no, and staying single is you holding that answer steady. Holding it takes nothing from you. You keep your evenings, you keep your standards, you keep the largest position of your life in your own name, and you're still free to say yes the day someone actually adds. Most men lose this one by refusing to wait through the quiet part. So do this tonight, before you open another brokerage app. Write down your last 4 Saturdays, where you were, what you did, and the names of the men you did it with. Then add up how many of those hours went into something that will still be standing next year. That page is your real financial statement. It'll tell you more about where you're standing at 55 than any projection you've ever run, and it took 6 minutes to produce. And every line on it is yours to change by this Saturday.